Namaskar. This is Dipali Barrett and you are watching ISU Talks. The process of choosing news headlines has become an art form, blending the need for journalistic integrity with the pursuit of reaching a wider audience. Today, we will dive deep into the heart of media and its experience, shedding light on captivating views, diverse perspectives, and the components that make a news headline. In this exploration named Choosing News for Views, Making of a Headline, we delve into the behind the scenes workings of newsrooms and the considerations that editors must consider when crafting attention grabbing headlines. On the show, we have with us Dr. Ritu Dutta. She is working with the Times of India, Jaipur as a response resident editor for Rajasthan Special Supplements. Dr. Dutta has more than 22 years of rich experience in editorial, communications, creating communities, content management and people management. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
My first question to you would be, what are the primary goals or objectives when crafting headlines for news stories?
So see, there are, when you get a news story, right? So there are no set goals as such, but you have to delve into the content of the story, what it is about. So again, there is a demarcation between a news story and a feature story, right? Features, you the special magazines which come out with the main edition, newspapers, So there is a difference between news and a feature headline. So when a news headline, since we're talking about the news headlines today, so when a news comes in, maybe it is about something which has happened right now or something which happened yesterday, and they are printing it. So the primary objective is, when you read the content of the story, you have to pick out what actually the story is. Right, if there is a accident which has happened and there were like 5 people killed, so what is the major this thing about it? It's not about the location, it's not about the this thing, it is about the human lives lost. So that is the main crux of the story. So you pick it up and accordingly you give the headline. Since it's a news, so you give, there was 5 people killed in an accident, then other things don't matter. Then other, the story might be a bigger this thing, but you have to pick out the the primary point on which the story actually is based, right? Similarly in feature, if you're writing a story about, say, something about how to keep your heart healthy, let's say, right? So now heart healthy is a very vast this thing. How do you do it? So when you're writing that story and you're focusing on these are 10 tips to keep your heart healthy, or maybe you're speaking to some doctor who's saying these are the heart diseases which you should focus on. So these are two different things. So how do you choose the headline? So your headline needs to, it could be generic because it is covering a lot of things. It's covering tips about this thing. So it's not about a simple article. There is somebody who's saying ki these are the diseases, and somebody who's saying ki these are the tips you should follow to keep. So how do you do it? So then you think of a generic headline which will encompass the entire story, right? So then you maybe give a generic headline in a feature like, maybe heart of the matter, something like this, to, with an inverted comma in a heart, focusing that it's about heart and the matters which affect the heart,
Okay.
or matters of the heart, something
Right.
like this. So this is a generic headline.
Employing literary devices like a pun or something.
Yeah, maybe a pun, but not necessarily, using phrases, and maybe taking a cue from the phrases and then changing it according to what you have written. So that is how it is. In features it's different, and when it's a news which comes in like a stark, like I told you in the example, then you have to pick up the crux of the news and just put it in the headline. So that is maybe a little easier to pick. When you're doing a feature one, then you have to at least use your mind. How do you do this now? Because since it encompasses a lot of, it's not a niche this thing, it encompasses a lot of this thing about
Other
the story. Yeah,
subtopics, right.
that way.
All right. So are there any ethical considerations when creating headlines, specifically when the aim is increasing views and engagement? Like you talked of the accident example. If I add, what if those 5 people were killed by a vehicle that was being driven by some politician?
Yeah, again, so see, ethical, talking about ethical considerations is a very vast subject. How do you apply it to a certain news headline, right? So again, most of the time, the dilemma is whether to highlight what is the thing which we need to highlight. So what happens is when there is a headline, maybe you could, if it is done by a politician, again there is a consideration.
Whether that should
Usually,
be put
see,
in
the
or not.
ethical thing is you need to put it right there, but you will obviously not put the name of the person in the headline, right? Only if he's a very big, well-known name, then only you will put it there, right? For a normal somebody who's a this thing state level politician, not very famous, though you would not probably put it in the headline. Maybe put it in the intro. There is a strap line also. Once you see, so maybe you'll put the name there. So these are the considerations with the, it is the editor's call how to, whether to take it on in the head, within the headline. That is very rare if you see, a person's name being put there. Only I think the prime minister or the people or the very higher level, their names are put in the headline, in the main headline. Otherwise what they do is, which we usually do, is the strap line or the intro, the second line which is beneath the headline, we put it there. So that it's also visible along with it, but not as stark as the headline.
All right. So my next question is, how has the process of headline creation changed with the spread of social media? How has that impacted?
See, with social media, social media is an entirely different thing when we compare it with, the print and magazines and stuff. So social media, it's instant attention grabbing, a thing. If the headline or the content is not catchy, and in social media, most of the thing is that it's all about the
clickbaiting
headline.
thing.
And then, headline, it's not about content. Here you can, you have a content to play with, and then you are, the headline is continuing along with the content. Where in social media, it is an instant click with the reader. कि ये click किया, then that person will read the entire thing. Otherwise, he or she will not, because the attention span is so little. So in social media, the headlines need to be, indeed very catchy, very funky, maybe puns like you said earlier. And then, that is the difference. So it has to be very catchy, and, it has to resonate with the audiences. The social media audiences, mostly the youngsters. So it has to resonate with it. And plus in social media, what you can do is you can, play with the words. Maybe, not use the entire word and use like the lingo. You can do that. But in a newspaper, you will obviously not play with the lingo. You will always be, very correct English you will write there, grammatically correct, everything. With this, in social media, you can play with the lingo. You can change it, you can make it funky, you can, to address the audience. So that is how there's a difference between the social media thing and the news headline making.
All right. And have you noticed any specific patterns or strategies that consistently lead to higher engagement with headlines? Like maybe some of your headlines that grabbed the audience's attention and it stayed with them?
See, there are many cases like this. I don't remember a very particular one, but there are, with the newspaper I'm working with, Economic Times comes up with fantastic headlines during the budget sessions.
Absolutely.
So they are always, there in the audience's mind. Of course, the headlines makes the difference, because with the headline, when you're reading a paper, if the headline is not good, you might probably not
Read
the entire thing. But there again, there is a difference. With a feature thing, you can play with the words and everything. When it is a news, so you have to, report it right there. So, at that point of time, there is a little bit of
not much space for creativity.
Yeah, right. So not much space for creativity, we'll say.
Right. So when you said that there's not much space of creativity, is it still that like how do you tailor headlines to different target demographics or reader segments? Like if there's a particular feature or a news you think would address a particular age group of people, so do you like think of this when framing a headline?
No, see, a headline is not framed with the target audience in mind. Maybe that would be in social media when you're doing a single post. When you're doing it in a newspaper, you already have the story with you, right? So the story will be targeting the audience.
Right.
So again, your headline is going to come from the story. It's not going to come from the story is this, but the target is this audience, so I will change the story. No, I don't think it impacts much. Only if the story is related to certain, it's catering to a certain niche audience or something, this thing, then it is there. Otherwise, for editor or a person on the copy desk, it is not necessarily the target audience. It is what the story is and what is the story all about and what needs to be highlighted in the story. So that goes on the headline.
Right. And there are certain controversial or sensitive matters that come up when it comes to making the lead story of the front page. So how do you handle those controversial or sensitive news stories when crafting headlines to avoid particularly misinformation and sensationalism?
See, again, that is a very, very sensitive question, and this is, I think, this is a dilemma which every editor faces. At the same time, to report what is exactly happened and to take the sentiments in mind. And of course, the editors do that, because if it is going to be sensationalized, it is not the correct thing to do if it results into some,
True.
yeah.
Like what currently happened, what recently happened in Nu. How did you report that?
No, so see, I would not report. No, will be reported by a Haryana person, right? So it will be there, this thing. So if it happens something in Rajasthan, I would not be, able to tell you how I reported no, right? Because that is, of course, a different state altogether. So that is that editor's dilemma, how to do that. And they are very particular. Every place has their own editor. They know what the demographic is, what the population is, what the this thing is, and accordingly they take a
So they
call.
keep everything in mind and then they.
Absolutely. If it happens in Rajasthan, it comes to us. We also take into consideration, what the demography is, what are the this thing, what are the repercussions, what might happen, what might not happen, and then you accordingly decide, okay, this is the best thing we can do. So that is the call which the entire copy desk team takes.
Right. And how do you keep track of the performance of headlines in terms of views and click-through rates?
See, I don't know, in newspaper, print media, so much of the headlines of click and news, and I don't know it matters. I think it's mostly the content, which carries the headline, because it's not only based on the headline. It's not a catchphrase or a caption, which we do, so it'll get a click. So it's like, it's mostly the story which carries the headline. If the story is good, if headline is good, people, and the story is, interesting, and they want to read it, they'll read it any which ways. So not much consideration about likes or dislikes. It's just that you want to give the best headline which, clicks with the people, with the masses. And
So do you
works
ever
for them.
sit down and re-evaluate the newspaper after it's published?
Yeah, mostly we do that in the in desk. Whenever our paper or a special edition or something comes out, we obviously sit down with it and we discuss. We could have done this better, or this could be a we could have done this way. That is I think every editorial desk does that. And it is essential also, to take views from other people. How has it come out? Could we have done better? What is the thing which is. So people give feedback, and that's a good thing, and it helps in the long run. And so I think everybody does that.
And you do you also keep a track of the other newspapers that are in the market?
Absolutely, I think we should do that. I think every newspaper would be doing that. Okay, what's happening?
Okay. My next question is, in a world where misinformation and fake news are prevalent, how do you ensure that the headlines you choose maintain journalistic integrity?
See, so these are quite lofty words, talking about journalistic integrity and all these, and I don't know how would I handle this, but of course, fake news. Social with the advent of social media, the fake news has become a really big issue with everyone. What is correct and what is not. So we at the Times of India make sure that whatever the story which comes to us is best researched, well done. We check, we recheck the facts, we connect with the sources, if it is right or it is wrong, and we try to publish the mostly this thing, not which has been authenticated and everything, that kind of a thing. That is all I think we can do in this age and era. Nothing more. How can you do it? Because people are spreading, even they can pick up a single line from a story and make it into another one. So I don't know where it is going to stop unless and until everybody gets into it. But not a single person can do it. It's open with the advent of social media. It's open to everyone, right? So that is a thing which is
That
there.
brings me to my last question, which is also my favorite question. Is there any particular headline or some headlines that are your favorite?
Oh, I'll have to think about it. There must be some. I'm unable to recall right now. There are many, but I'm unable to recall right now a single headline which is.
Like maybe something you wrote, maybe your first headline.
Oh, my first headline. So I
Must have
remember
been
this, when I
22
started.
years
Okay.
back.
So you've taken me back to 22 years back. Yes, it must be around 20 years back or something. I don't know. Salman Khan had come here to shoot for a movie. And at that time, if you remember, I don't know, you guys were, of course, I don't know what.
Not born.
Not born, huh? So he was shooting, he had shot for a commercial of Thumbs Up. And it became very controversial and everything, and he was not talking to the media at all. So when he came to Jaipur, he was shooting, and we went there, and he was not talking to the media. So I was I just entered into journalism 1 year into it, and I'm standing there and I'm trying to talk to him ki Salman, would you answer this question for me, you know do you like this? So I asked him something about, do you like this thing? He didn't answer. He just shrugged his shoulders and went off. So I came back and I said, he didn't give an interview, he didn't talk, he didn't. So at that time, my editor told me, so you write a story, whatever you think is this. And we discussed and we gave a headline. He gives a thumbs down to his new this thing. And I still remember this because you got me back to 20 years. So, and it was thumbs down because of the thumbs up pun. So
right.
we used that, and then we got to know he was pretty upset with the Times of India. These people are writing, this, and he said, who wrote this? And I wrote the entire story on that, based on that. He gave the thumbs down to his favorite something. I asked him, how do you like this? He gave something about some, I think, food or something. So he gives a thumbs down to this. So, and then carried the entire story from there, wrote about his movie and everything. But the headline, it stuck. It was on, Rajasthan Plus used to come out. It was on the top, this thing. So he was so I remember this. So it was a good pun, thought about what to give, what not to give. He's not talking, he just said this, shrugged his shoulders and moved on. So that was a...
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, you're welcome.
So,
thank you. Nice
headlines are the main characters of a newspaper. Their journey, like any other hero, is full of ups and downs and hurdles. Yet, headlines, our leads, emerge out victorious. In this case, true and on point for a reader or viewer. This was the story of making of a headline. And with this, we come to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewers. We will see you soon with a new conversation. Till then, keep watching ISU News. Namaskar.